All right, watch this video before you get started in the Airbnb industry, okay? So in this video, I'm gonna go through all of the different ways that you can earn money and build a career, build a business, and generate income and revenue through these different Airbnb strategies. I'm also gonna tackle some common misconceptions. I'm gonna do that on this side of the board, some common misconceptions about the industry, and I'm also gonna document where I think the number one opportunity lies in 2026 in the Airbnb or short-term rental or short stay market, okay? Before we dive in, let me tell you about myself. I'm JP, I'm the founder and CEO of the Host Network, which is our education platform for Airbnb hosts. It's only for hosts, so if you've got one property or you've got 100 properties, you are welcome to come into the Host Network, and you can pay different packages to get your education, but more importantly, your business knowledge and education around all things Airbnb, okay? Now, before we dive in, I want to talk about, first of all the different models that you can do in Airbnb, okay? And then, as I said, I'm gonna talk to you about the misconceptions and then the biggest opportunity in 2026. So without waiting around, let's jump straight in. The first opportunity that you can get into Airbnb, the first thing people think, it's probably the thing that people say most commonly than not. This is what they think. And by the way, before I jump in, I just want to say this. Instead of nowadays, the question being, should I start in Airbnb? The question now with the way the industry's gone, like, I remember looking at this in 2015. It was a very early on industry, really, really early. I think Airbnb is only founded in 2012 anyway, right? I remember thinking, okay, if I want to be an Airbnb, I've got to get a property and then I've got to put it on Airbnb, right? Now, the question is not that. The question is, where do I want to position my business, even if it's a new business? Where do I want to position myself in the Airbnb industry? It is a huge global industry with many, many facets, okay? That's what I want to talk about as well in this video. So, okay, back to all the different ways that we can get started in Airbnb. These are all the different revenue generating models. The first one is the most popular one, and it is where you own a property, okay? So if you are a landlord already, which means you might do AST, you've got a buy to let, you've got a HMO, you've got a property. For some reason, you want to change your strategy, okay? For some reason, you don't want to do AST anymore, you don't want to do HMO, you don't want to do buy to let, or for whatever reason, you just want to try this Airbnb thing. I see this message all the time, especially in Facebook groups, especially, you know, online and people that DM me and things like that. How do I do it? Where do I get started? I'm a landlord, I've currently got X, okay? So that might be you. You might have cash and you might be looking to purchase a brand new. Yeah, when I say new, I don't mean a new build, I just mean you haven't got it yet, so to you it's new. I know a lot of my audience have got cash, okay? So you're gonna be successful in what you do and you've accrued money and you've got savings and you've got investments and you've got funds and you wanna diversify your income into the Airbnb world or into the property world. And that's why you're watching this video. So this one might be you. You've got the funds. Remember, this one requires some serious capital to purchase a house, especially in the UK. In some regions, it can be a lot more than others. So you're either a landlord already, you're looking to purchase, or you might inherit a property. Unfortunately, someone in your family has left your property as they have passed, and now you're in this position, you don't know what to do. You're thinking about Airbnb because you've got this property and you're weighing up your options, okay? So you might fall into this category. You own a property. Now there is a a fourth, but there is a fourth option owning a property is you partnered up with someone romantically, you've moved into their house, they've moved into your house, which leaves one free house, okay? So that might be your entry into the Airbnb market, okay? Cool. The second way that we can do things, so I'm just gonna talk about the options first. Again, remember, this is before you've started your Airbnb journey. Now, if you have started and you've already got 2 properties, 3 properties, you are gonna find a lot of value in this because you might only think that that is what exists. Or you might know about that one and this one, which is what we call in the UK, rent to rent, and in the US it's arbitrage, okay? Arbitrage is basically rent to rent, but in US terms. So what does that mean? It means we rent a property from a landlord for the purpose of renting out on Airbnb. Rent a property from a landlord for the purpose of renting out on Airbnb, okay? But that's illegal, JP. Subletting. No, it's not. This is how most people do things in the Airbnb space. Rent to rent is super, super popular. It does come with its risks, of course. So I just want to cover a couple of those. I actually haven't covered the risks here, but let me go back. So first of all, in rent to rent, you rent a property from a landlord. You usually do it for 5 years, okay, minimum. Minimum, I would say, is 3 years. Absolutely don't do it for any less than 3 years because it's not worth your investment, okay? You furnish it, okay, so you're going to get all the furniture. You're probably going to decorate, and you have got full permission to run it on Airbnb, booking.com, short stays, all of that stuff. It's all written in your contract. The landlord fully understands what you're going to do with it, and then you come up with that agreement, and he's happy, she's happy because they're getting their rent for 5 years, or worst case 3 years, and you're happy because you haven't had to purchase a property. So the benefits are quite clear. With this one, you're the owner. Okay, so you're in control, but it's going to cost you some serious capital if you have to do this, all right? Not so much if you're already a landlord, or you've inherited a place, or you've partnered and you've got a spare house, okay? Not so much there. I'd say always, if this is an option, this is better than this, okay? For your first one, okay? If this is an option, it's better for your first one. If you're a landlord of multiple and they are high quality, you're the exception, okay? You're in the driving seat there. If you've got a lot of cash to purchase, you know, several properties, you're also in the exception because you guys are in the lucky sort of, it's not lucky, you're in a real fortunate position. So we can own a property or we could rent to rent a property. What are the benefits of rent to rent? Well, you get control of the property and it costs you very little, okay? It's £0.50, okay? It costs you very, very little. Why? Because you're only giving 1 month's rent plus 1 month's deposit, or you might even do a deposit insurance scheme, therefore no deposit. And then you're going to furnish and decorate and all of that. So even if you spend 10 grand furnishing and decorating, you're only paying 1 month's rent, okay? There's actually no purchase price. You still have to furnish and decorate if you own. So whatever that cost is, you're still going to have that there, plus you're going to have the cost of the purchase if you're the one purchasing, okay? Hopefully I'm making that fairly clear. So you either own the property or you're going to rent to rent. Where do I find a rent to rent, JP? Well, that is a whole different video. We teach this in the Host Network. But if you are a beginner, we don't necessarily charge for beginner content. So either DM us if you can't find it, or it should be on YouTube somewhere, is how do you get a rent to rent? I would simply say, if you don't have the confidence to speak to an agent, pick up the phone and speak to an agent, walk into an agency, or get on things like Gumtree, Facebook, Open Rent, and directly chat to landlords. If you don't have the confidence to do that, find a reputable sourcer. Again, in the Host Network, we've got our verified list of sources. You will pay something like £3,000 per deal for their time to get the right property to your spec, okay? That is worth its weight in gold because now you're up and running. Okay, so you own a property, you could rent to rent property. And number 3, how can I make money in Airbnb? Remember, we're going through all the vehicles that you could make money in Airbnb. Is favorite of all time, the most popular at the minute, is you could become an Airbnb management company. This is the most popular and probably the most competitive space right now in Airbnb because anyone can claim that they are an Airbnb management company. This is where you look after everything from housekeeping to maintenance to, I can't keep up with my writing, listings. You're going to list it on Airbnb. You're going to optimize that listing and pricing, okay? Listings, optimization, pricing. You're going to handle all of the payments, all of the cleaner payments. You're going to need a team. You're going to need almost 24-hour coverage because your guests, guess what? Especially the Australian ones, they're going to message you all hours of the day. Now, management, this is an ops strategy, okay? Operational strategy. This is not a property business, okay? This one might be a property business, and this is now an operational management business, okay? So it's two very different things. What does a management team do? A management team does all of this stuff and more. I haven't written half of it on there. You're going to take care of all the bookings. Yeah, you're going to take care of all your guests. You know, where do I find the Wi-Fi code? That's going to be you answering that at 7 p.m. at night, on Boxing Day, at Christmas, Christmas Eve. You know, oh, the cooker's broken down. Yeah, that's going to be you dealing with that, okay? This is where the headache is. For those who don't like headaches, this is not your bit. For those who like income and you're operational and you like building and scaling teams, this is for you, okay? This is very popular, like I said, 2026 at the time of recording this video, and this is becoming really, really competitive because anyone can claim that they're a management team. Okay, if you don't want to go full hog management, you could become a co-host, okay? That's this, but just the digital aspect. Okay, it's just the digital, and you're like Santa's little helper. I don't know why I keep talking about Christmas. You're a helper. You might deal with some guest comms, so some chat. Oh hey, I want to book this. You deal with the guest chat. You might do the listings and optimization. You might do the pricing. I probably wouldn't let a co-host do my pricing. Okay, I wouldn't let a co-host do my pricing, but I would let them take all of the lower level tasks. All right, all of those things. So a co-host is somebody that hosts with you, hence the term co-host. And they're a helper. They're going to take care of the lower level tasks, the guest chat. They might look at your listings, update your photographs, update your new properties. I don't know, whatever it is. I haven't talked about money at all. I'm going to do that in a minute. But a co-host is kind of a new thing, right? It came about in Airbnb. I think it was 2025 they launched the co-host program. And already it is wild. If you go on Facebook groups, you can see people from all around the world saying things like, I want to get into co-hosting. How do I get my first property? Literally anyone can get into co-hosting because all as you're doing is you're just being online when the owner is not online. Okay, so if the owner says, well, I go to sleep at this time, can you do the next 6 hours of covering guest messages? Can you make my listings right? Can you be my little helper? All of that stuff. Okay, so that's co-hosting. Okay, so what else can we do? Well, a big one in our industry is probably not what you're expecting, is a cleaning business. Okay, cleaning business. So why the hell do I want to own a cleaning business? I came here to get into property and now I'm being taught about cleaning. Okay, hold that thought. Every Airbnb, whether it's this, because management companies have lots of properties that they manage, they need reliable cleaning businesses. So these guys don't just clean, they are your housekeeper. What do I mean by that? They do spot checks, they do inventory checks, they might do gas and electric meter reads for you. Okay, you're getting the idea. They're our guys on the ground, and we spend a lot of money from our management business on cleaners and cleaning turnovers, changeovers, whatever you call it. After every guest stay, you have to send in a full clean team and they have to do your top-ups of consumables. They have to do your linen. So let me just write this down. So they're going to do your consumables. Yeah, they're going to look after in some fashion your linen, take the dirties away, put the cleans on. So that is a really, really good business model, especially if you're in an area whereby you've got a lot of Airbnbs and you're an operational thinker. This one is an operational thinker. This one is an operational thinker. This one is someone who likes to work remote and is organized. Okay. This one obviously is a property owner. And this one, I feel like I'm singing a song, is someone who likes to scale. Okay. As is management, as is this one. Okay. So I'm trying to just match where you're at. If you're here and you are about to start in Airbnb, I want you now just to analyze, what kind of person am I? What kind of brain have I got? I am definitely an entrepreneur that likes to scale, that likes to go fast, and that likes to fix systems and put teams in place. And I've got this one, this one, this one, and this one. And the only one I haven't got is this one because it's just a partial of this. So if you're going to do this, you don't need this, okay? Because this is this. It's just this is a lesser version, all right? And I'm definitely not as organized as I would need to be a co-host myself. So if you like systems, you're going to be here. If you like to own and you like control, you're going to be here. If you like to go fast and scale, you're going to be here. Or if you're skint and you've got no money, you're also going to be here, but then there's other things I'm going to talk about. All right. Number 6, this is you if you're skint. Sourcing. You are going to find properties for rent-to-rent operators to take on or purchase people to buy, okay? Now, the most common form of sourcing is rent-to-rent. Let me just give you an example. So I have lots of landlord contacts. As you can imagine, I've been in the business 7 years. You are a beginner. I'm just going to say that as an example for now. You might be very, very successful in your industry. You might be making a lot of money with your business elsewhere or in your corporate role elsewhere. So you don't have time and you haven't given any time or thought to the Airbnb industry yet, okay? So when I say you're a beginner, that's what I mean. And you might say, JP, I've got the money. I just need to get going. Remember here, we talked about £3,000. In sourcing, All as you have to do is you have to find a landlord, and we talked about how you might do that, and we talked about where people might get shy or have restrictions with that. For example, I need to find a landlord, and I just need to match him up to someone who wants to buy a deal. So let's call it a client, okay? So we call these clients. I need to find a landlord, I need to agree a property on his property or her property, and I need to sell it to the client, and I need to then charge that client anywhere between and in today's money, it's £3,000 to £5,000. I wouldn't have dreamt of charging that in 2019. Now I pay that. I pay that just to save time. Or if a sourcer brings me a really hot property, I will pay £5,000 for it straight off the bat. No problem. Because if I see the value in the property, it is a no-brainer for us. Let me just rewrite what I've just rubbed off. Okay, so sourcing is good for two things. Quick cash, as you can see, very quick. How long before I find a landlord? Well, I could go on OpenRent, Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace, down the local property networking, down the pub and just chat to everyone. Somebody will have property as a landlord. Somebody will be willing to go, oh, I've got a property that I need to rent out, and they might not know the industry. So it's this person's job to explain to this person, hey, what about if I rented your property for 5 years, and instead of it being an AST or a traditional buy-to-let, it's actually going to be an Airbnb. It's going to be for a client of mine that runs it as an Airbnb under their brand, and you're just going to get the same rent as a landlord. They're going to pay the bills, but instead of it being 1 year, it's going to be for 5 years. Does that sound good? And this guy might go, yeah, sounds all right. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Yeah, when we're not 3 Guinness in. Cool. That's what a sourcer is. You do have to be compliant. It's not super expensive to be compliant. It doesn't take a lot of time. And ultimately, if you're not compliant, let's say it's absolute day one and you've got 0 funds. Okay, this is the worst case. It's day one, so you just get started and you've got no funds. Partner with someone like me, bring me the right property. And if I sell it to a client, we split the source fee half, 50-50. Or partner with another sourcing company or someone that is already compliant and just split the fee 50-50. This is old tact, okay? This is nothing new. It's super exciting if you need cash, okay? But you've got to find people that want rent-to-rent deals, and you've got to be super trustworthy, because this is a bit of a shark industry, okay? So we don't want to just be another shark. We want to be really, really trustworthy and provide quality as much as we can. Do you get the idea? There's lots of ways to make money in the Airbnb industry. This is staging. I'm going to simplify it. Interior design. If you love interior design, if you love shopping, if you love architecture, if you love furniture, if you love colors, painting, wallpaper, all of that stuff, okay? This is a really, really big opportunity, okay? It's a really big opportunity because people who do this, guys like us, people who do this, everyone needs this, okay? Everyone needs someone to turn their 4-bedroom AST, buy-to-let, magnolia, boring property into an Airbnb paradise, okay? Everyone needs that. Now, I'm not talking about the money yet. I'm just gonna go around and do that afterwards. But I want to caveat with this is a very hands-on business, okay? This one is quite fast cash. This one is very, very hands-on, and you must have some form of infrastructure. So this is not like a quick, let's try it thing, but I'll come around again and talk about money. Now, there are other services. I'm just gonna do this. There are other services. In fact, I've saved the best till last because it's the biggest opportunity, I think, in 2026. What are the other services? Put my other colors away, JP. You might have a photography business. There are a few really, really good, well-known photographers in the service accommodation Airbnb business. And I tell you this, they make a fortune. They make a fortune. They can charge anywhere from £200 to £500 per property. Obviously, if it's a big mansion property, that's going to even go up from there. But on average, they're charging this. I usually pay around £350, £400 for my photographs. I tend to use the same 2 people, depending on where it is in the country. And they can get 3 or 4 shoots in per day. Wowzers, 3 or 4 shoots per day, you're over £1,000. Okay, you're over £1,000 a day. The 2 people that I use, I know that they are super booked up because they will publish their calendar with slots. And they'll basically say, I've got these slots left and these are taken. So services, photography, it's massive. If you have an eye for photography, if you're creative, maybe you do this and you do this together. Okay, so you want to do photography and staging together if you're that type of creative person. What other services have we got? I've written down here. You might be really good dynamic pricing. You might be really good at numbers. You might be really good at revenue management. You might have some sort of background in hospitality, in hotels, in pricing, in knowing your numbers, and knowing your market. If you've come from an Airbnb background or a service accommodation short stay background, and you're really hot on this, this is something that I find really, really interesting. So I'm passionate about this. If I lost everything tomorrow and I just wanted a desktop job, I would offer my services for this. Okay, I would do this. It's really, really cool. What does it mean? It means you set the prices for other people's Airbnbs, other people's properties. And what does it involve? A lot of market comparison, a lot of research, a lot of going through and understanding software. So there's a couple of softwares out there that will do this for you, but it needs a person to really understand the nuts and bolts of it. Again, in the host network, we talk about this. A stadium, and your pricing is set to £150 every single night of the year, and you've just sold your Taylor Swift nights at £150. You've missed out on thousands, okay? Because everyone else is selling them at £2,000. So somebody in services, you can make money by working with dynamic pricing. If you're into trading, if you're into charts, if you're into analytics, this is something for you, okay? This is something for you for sure. Right, there is probably one more. I don't know if this is so much of a revenue stream unless you're already in it, but it's maintenance, okay? Maintenance. Every management team needs a maintenance team, okay? If you had a white van and you branded it and you said Airbnb maintenance by the hour, and you could do most of the things from changing light bulbs to fixing dodgy curtain poles, to stapling carpet back down, to fixing door handles that a guest pulled off, to replacing that mirror that a guest smashed, the toilet seat that's wonky because, people are too heavy-handed. All of that stuff is constant. And we spend a fortune on maintenance. So it could be a revenue stream if it's you, or if you wanted to create a maintenance team and take a bit on top, that is a business opportunity in itself, all right? Now here's 8, well, is there 8? 7, 8, 9, 10 ways. There's 10 ways to make money from the Airbnb industry. I'm gonna leave that there and change color because my opportunity, I think, in fact, let me make you wait. Let me make you wait as to what the opportunity is. And let me just talk about money, okay? Now, if you own a property, you're gonna have a mortgage or not. If you don't have a mortgage, you don't owe anyone any money. The building costs you nothing. But if you have a mortgage, that's all you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay your mortgage plus bills. You know what that mortgage is because you own the property or you're looking at it and you've gone online and done a mortgage calculator or something like that, okay? You're gonna pay the mortgage plus the bills, and then if you manage it yourself, that's all you're going to take as your fixed costs, okay? If you do rent to rent, you've got you've got rent and bills, okay? Rent and bills. Rent is usually higher than a mortgage because you usually have your mortgage and then you have what it market rents for. There is a gap, okay? So you will have less cash flow in this model than you will in this model, but you'll have more money down in this model because you need 25% deposit if you're doing the purchase strategy, okay? 25% deposit, how much is that? Well, how much is the house you're buying, okay? If it's £1 million, it's £250,000 that you need. If it's 100 grand, it's 25 grand that you need, plus tax, okay? Plus your second property tax, plus your stamp duty, land tax and all of that, all right? Plus your fees, okay? So plus tax, plus fees. So purchasing, you're gonna need some capital up front. Rent to rent, not so much. You're gonna have to pay your rent bills and all as you need is your first month's rent and deposit, all right? First rent and deposit. Again, whatever the rent is, if it's £2,000, you're gonna need £4,000 on day one, then you're gonna pay the bills from day one, then you're gonna pay from month 2, the rent again and again and again, okay? Management, what do you need? Now this is dependent on how many units you take on, okay? If you had less than 10, okay? Less than 10, and you wanted a full-time job, let's say you're scratching around, you're not doing anything right now, and you've got time, but you don't have money, you can manage less than 10, I would say. You might be able to manage, you might, if you're, don't have a social life or a family, you might be able to manage 15 comfortably. You might. There's a lot involved there. I do not recommend just jumping straight into this. I do not recommend it. Why do I not recommend it? One, because it's performance-based. You have now got clients. You are now offering a service that you're charging for, and this is hard. It's hard work, okay? It is hard work. This is the bit that everybody gets to do because they don't want to do it because it's hard work, if that makes sense. All right? What happens above 15? You need a team, okay? You need a team. You should have a team from day one. In my opinion, you should have a team from day one because you can't do all of this properly just with one person. Okay, so the cost of management, you generally charge a percentage somewhere between 10 and 25% of the gross revenue. Now that number can be very high, okay? So the income can be good, but remember this, it's either a full-time job for you or it's a team which is going to cost you money. Okay, we go into all of this in the host network in great detail, but I'm not going to do that here. Otherwise, I'll be here for a very long time. Co-hosting, what usually is charged, I'd say somewhere between 5 and 10% of gross revenue. So your costs are low, no cost to enter unless you did some education and some research about how and why and what you do as a co-host. But you're gonna get paid some revenue. Or you could charge a fixed cost, okay? You could charge a fixed cost. So what am I talking about? Well, hey, I'll charge £50 per property per month, okay? So if you've got 10 properties, that's £500 a month. Maybe you charge £100 per property per month, okay? If it's worth it to the owner, if the owner thinks, well, £100 per property per month is worth it, so I get my time off when you're on, and then I take over when you're off, and maybe we can make that work really well. Okay, so that's down to you to negotiate. Cleaning business, every time we do a changeover, we pay somewhere in the region of £80 to £300 per clean, per changeover after guest checkout. This is what they're paying. This is what we're paying. We own a cleaning business down in Bath as well, so we see both sides of the coin. And it's really thin margins. I'll be honest, it's really thin margins unless you're doing the work yourself. If you're a cleaner already, if you have got an interest in branching your cleaning business out into Airbnb, definitely come and talk to us in the host network because we can help you with what you need to do and how you do all your infrastructure. That is really the only way that you're going to make money. Unless you were sat around twiddling your thumbs with no job, no income, and you've got 5 or 6 people that you can clean for and their Airbnbs locally to you, all right? Now, one thing to mention is linen. That could be an income stream of its own. And ironing, if you're into ironing, that could be an income stream of its own. I'm not going to labor that point too much because again, they're thin margins and it involves you. It's your labor, okay? You're either washing the linen, ironing the linen, moving the linen around. It's very hands-on. It's not so much of a passive business. It's definitely not what you thought when you wanted to get started in Airbnb, right? But it is there, it does exist. So cleaning business is very good. It really depends if it's you doing the work. So that's what I want to strategize. If it's not you doing the work, you got to scale. You got to go big. You have to go big, okay? Because you're making tiny margins and you have to do lots of tiny margins to make a big margin, all right? Cool. Sourcing, you already know this, £3,000 to £5,000 per deal. It is not uncommon that a sourcer might clear a month of £20,000, okay? They might source 6 deals, £3,000 each, £18,000 before expenses and tax in a month. Totally doable, totally doable. Like, caveat, in 2026, this is slowing down. This is slowing down. I'm not going to go into why it's slowing down, but this is not what it was in 2019. When I started in this industry, I could have sold 10 deals a month. I just didn't know how to get 10 deals a month, but that's a different story, all right? So it is slowing down. It is still very much a thriving market. There are many businesses out there doing it, but I know a lot of sources that have never fully committed that are now backtracking. They're now going into something else, okay? So those that are fully committed, as always in business, they're the ones that are still remaining and doing well because all of the peripheral guys that came in for a quick buck, they've now got bored and they're now doing something else, okay? They're probably looking at doing this. Staging and interior design, now I did mention this. We used to have a staging business, £3,500 just for our fee. Then on top of that is the furniture, the photography, anything that we bought for the property that would be on top. That's just for time, okay? That's just for time. Time to design, time to shop, time to go and collect, time to gather everything together, time to get it to site, time to install it, all of that jazz. Very hands-on. If you have a vehicle that is a van, you know, like a white van or something like that, and you love traveling around and you love shopping and you have a real eye for detail, this is the one for you. But you need to make friends with sources and you need to make friends with these guys here. And you're probably going to want to advertise your services as much as possible, because this is, I wouldn't say quite competitive, but the demand is low, okay? It's not like a blue ocean. This is a low demand, all right? Services, photography, I've already talked about how much you can earn, 200 to 500. Dynamic pricing, this could be a percentage, okay? It could be a percentage of how much you earn now versus how much you earn once I've made your changes. I want paying a percentage of that. Or I want paying a percentage of the whole thing, or I want paying an amount, a fixed amount per property, all right? A fixed amount per property. Maintenance is costly, it's expensive. As we know, trades going up and up and up in terms of cost. Maintenance, you make a lot of money doing the smaller jobs, because then you can multiply, you can lots of jobs, lots of small jobs in one day, okay? So that's the idea. I'm not gonna put a number there, because maintenance is maintenance. Property maintenance is, you know, it's been around for many, many years. It's not really to do with Airbnb, but in the Airbnb market, why? We need our Airbnbs perfect every single time a guest checks in. If it's not, that's going to cause a complaint, it's going to cause a bad review. So maintenance is a high priority thing within Airbnb. So if you're in this industry already, or you can do DIY really well and you want to become a handyman and you get a van, and you advertise and you brand and you market yourself as Airbnb maintenance, you will do really, really well. Wow, that's a lot there, okay? So let me talk about a couple of misconceptions before we move into the final thing, which is in 2026, what is the number one opportunity that I think, okay? So, misconception number one. In fact, let me just clear some space. Yeah, if you haven't written that down already, you can go back and write it down. We're back in, watch this before you start in Airbnb. I just want to deal with a few common misconceptions. I'm going to attempt to write. I'm going to attempt to spell misconceptions. Is that right? I don't know. Common misconceptions. Number one, probably saturation. Airbnb is saturated. Is Airbnb saturated? Should I just not bother? Yes and no. Airbnb is way more saturated than it was when I started. I actually started doing numbers in 2017. Wowzers. And I remember thinking, oh, maybe we're just too late. Maybe we've just missed the boat, okay? I didn't do it in 2017. I ended up doing it in 2019, and I've missed 2 years. And as always, the best time to start was when the best time to start was. So I'd say in this industry, it was like 2013, 2014, 2015 would have been the best time to start, let's be frank. But is it saturated? It really, really depends. I would say no. But it really depends where you invest now and what you do with like what type of products and where that product is more than ever. You cannot just open up an Airbnb anywhere of any quality and it do well, like you could in 2017, 18, like you could in 2017, 18 or 19, okay? It is more difficult. It depends which one of those business models you're looking at. I would say you have to pick your location and your property type really well, okay? If you are a beginner and you are just going in blind and you do not know what you're doing, you will probably fall down on one of these two things. Why? Because there's lots of poor quality products in the market. A bit like any product in business, anywhere. When there's a good thing and there's a good market, there's a good industry, lots and lots of other people jump on the bandwagon and they flood the market with average products, okay? You cannot be average. You need to be above average in terms of quality, and you need to be really highly targeted, okay? You need to really be targeting who am I accommodating. Does target got one T or two? Who am I accommodating? Who is my avatar? Is it contractors? What type of contractors? Is it leisure? How many people can I sleep in my property? Where is my property nearby? Am I looking for those people that are going to that event over there on a regular basis, or that conference centre there on a regular basis, or this massive construction site that's about to start? Is that my target market? So saturation is a yes and no answer. It is definitely way more competitive if you are just going into purchase or rent to rent. It absolutely is. Management is really, really becoming tough, okay? Super duper saturated. There's even coaches out there teaching you just how to get started as a management company from day one, which I don't like. I like the idea that you've got experience and you've got real life experience and data and you know, not just numbers, but yeah, I can't say it differently than real life experience. I like that you've got that behind you before you go into management, okay? I think management's becoming really saturated. I don't think Airbnb has become really saturated, but do not do this blind and do not do this alone. The best and easiest strategy is to find someone who's doing really well in one of their properties and copy it. But that will only last so long because there's a reason they're doing really well in one of their properties, all right? Another misconception is the cost of starting. I'm not going to use that weird purple color. I'm just going to get rid of that because it looks bad. Another common misconception is the cost of starting. All right, the cost of starting is high. Well, I've already been through all of these models just before I wash them off. You saw the cost of starting, okay? There are some ways that you can get into the Airbnb industry without spending a penny. But if you don't spend money, you will spend time, okay? Because you're then in a service or an operations type business. You're not in a property business where you're purchasing or you're rent to renting. Okay, so they are the vehicles, the purchase, the rent to rent, that's a vehicle. The rest of the things that we talked about were services, management, co-hosting, staging, cleaning, sourcing, pricing, optimization, maintenance. They were all services, okay? So the cost of starting a service is low. The cost of starting a purchase is obviously relative to the house you're buying. That's the most expensive one by far. And the cost of starting a rent to rent, let me just be frank with you. Either way, purchase or rent to rent, yeah, purchase or rent to rent, you're gonna have to do this. You're gonna have to furnish the place. You're very likely before furnishing, you're gonna have to decorate, okay? You're very likely to have at least a month worth of costs, okay? Bills, Wi-Fi, mortgage, rent, you're gonna have a month worth of costs, okay? And that's 1 month before you've got any income because you've got to do this bit, you've got to decorate, you've got to furnish before it's market ready. Okay, let's say it's already beautifully decorated and it's already beautifully furnished and you're getting that in your rent to rent model, that's cool, okay? That's really cool. But you're still gonna have a lag between listing it and welcoming your first guest. Yeah, unless you get a really experienced management company or you jump in the host network, something like that, and we teach you how to get listings full from day one, okay? So, the cost of starting is relative to the strategy that you choose, but always give yourself a bit of buffer. Do not start this industry with zero and think you can go and get a rent to rent and spend 500 quid on Facebook Marketplace to furnish it. Those days are gone. Okay, those days are gone. Like I said, 2017, that might have worked. Yeah, secondhand beds, secondhand furniture, 500 quid. Oh my God, it's wonderful. It all starts, yada, yada, yada. Don't do that because people like us will crush you with our interiors. We will make a product far superior to yours and we could price it at the same as yours because we know how the game works. So that's my warning to just say, don't do it unless you've got some money. And I would probably say decorating takes a few grand, at least £2,000, unless you're painting it yourself. And in that case, it might be 300 quid, okay? Furnishing is at least 5 grand for an average 3-4 bedroom house, okay? So it's at least 5 grand. You're gonna spend 500 quid on your TV. Just think of it that way. You spend 500 quid on your TV. If there's any other common misconceptions, comment on the video, let me know, and I can do a version 2 of misconceptions. I wanna complete this video right now by giving you the #1 opportunity in 2026 that I think is out there and the reasons behind it, okay? So here's the thing. Most people now are into management, okay? I'm seeing for everyone who goes, hey, can you recommend a management company in X city? I'm seeing 50 messages. Hey, we do it. Hey, we do it. Hey, we do it. Yeah, we cover that area. We do this, we do that, we do that. And they're all different names. Like, I don't even tend to compete anymore. I don't even say, oh, we do this, we do that, because then I'm just joining the queue. And I've always thought of business like this. Where is the queue of people? Where's the queue of people, right? Where is the blue ocean? Where is the massive opportunity? Management, there's a queue of people to get one client. So clients, you're in a really tricky position now because the market's been flooded with average people, average management companies, average quality, average everything. So when you want to find a management company, you've got a real tough decision, okay? So I'm not going to say the opportunity is in management. I don't think it is. However, the market, as we know, is becoming more saturated. We just talked about that. So the market is more saturated, okay? The market is more saturated. So that's not an opportunity, that's a bad thing. What does that lead to? Well, if the market is more saturated, it's got more Airbnbs than ever before. What does every single Airbnb person, Airbnb operator, management company, co-host, owner, rent-to-renter, whatever, what does every single person want for their property? If you know it, shout it out to your TV. Everybody wants bookings, okay? Everybody wants bookings. All of these management companies are saying to this client, we can get you bookings, we can get you bookings, we can get you bookings. All of these clients are demanding of their management company, where's my bookings, where's my bookings, where's my bookings? You're getting the point. How can you take advantage of that? How can you be a different service altogether in a blue ocean? You can generate bookings. You can either start your own OTA. You start your own OTA. How do you do that? Come to the host network and we'll tell you. Very simple, very low cost. There are people providing those services right now. Or you can pick up the phone. All right, let me just time out because I'm about to say two things here that you are going to go, I don't want to do that because it's a bit more difficult. It's a bit out there. It's a bit left. It's a bit, it's a bit like, well, okay, well, I wanted to get into Airbnb. I like property. I like furniture. I like this. I like that. Okay, if you want to join the queue, join the queue. That's cool. Yeah, you just join the queue. This is for those people that are entrepreneurs, that are the ones that want the opportunity and they can see the opportunity because it's right in front of them. You're either going to start your own OTA. What does that mean? It means you're going to drive bookings to other people's properties. You're going to drive bookings to other people's properties. What does picking up the phone mean? It means you're going to drive bookings to other people's properties and you're going to take, in both occasions, a commission. Usually 10 to 15%. How does it work? If you can go and connect with a corporate company, a bunch of engineers, which is again my example that I'm always going to use, if you can go and connect with those companies, they have needs for accommodation around the UK every single day of the year. Okay, they're going to have needs for accommodation. They may have somebody that sits on Airbnb and sits on booking.com and tries to get the best deal in the right property. But trust me, if you've ever tried to do that, it very quickly becomes painful. These companies, they might have 60 workmen or a workforce of all these people. They're in a different country. They need to come to the UK and they need to sort out all of these, by the looks of it, they're on a hill, all of these houses for their workmen near their work site, wherever their work site is. That is actually a really painful task. If you can get in touch with these people and you can connect the dots between the business that you're speaking to that has the workers and the hosts that have the properties, and you take a commission, you've just earned what a management company earns in 1 or 2 phone calls. And there's no risk because these know that it's not your property. Okay, and these know that it's not you staying in there. You are just a booking agent. You are an OTA, an online travel agent. Your job is to drive bookings, okay? And that is the biggest opportunity in 2026 right now. If you can sell, if you're a connector of people, if you're in recruitment or you're in sales or you're in anything to do with business relationships, especially if you've got a corporate background, especially if you're in some form of construction or engineering or things like that, where you can connect with other companies of basically that have a need for their workers to go to the UK, different parts of the UK, and they need digs, they need accommodation. They could be contractors, they could be blue collar, that's what we call contractors, or they could be white collar, they could be business executives. Maybe you find a US company that often sends business execs over to the UK, and where do they house them? If they're staying for one night, by the way, they're not going to want to stay in an Airbnb. But if they're staying for 2 weeks, they're not going to want to stay in a hotel. And now you have an opportunity. But the easiest opportunity, and we make a lot of money from this strategy, is you find a company that has a bunch of contractors near a work site, and you connect with hosts and you place them in their properties, and you take a cut of 15%. And ka-ching, you've made all of the money that we would normally make in management for 15% in one phone call and one connection. Okay, that is what I would do if I was getting into Airbnb. Not only that, it depends on your personal position. So to summarize, it's now not about, I want to get into Airbnb. It's asking a better question. Where do I want to position myself in the Airbnb industry, in the Airbnb market? What do I want my business to look like? As you can see, I've given my secret away for 2026. No one will do this apart from you if you really are an action taker and you want to go and get it. Nobody will do this because this is a little bit out there, like I said, okay? Remember to ask yourself a better question. If you are looking to get started, come and get yourself into the host network. If you're watching this in 2026, it is our first year. We launch in 2026. So get yourself in, be one of the early birds. There is an offer on as well. If you're watching this beyond 2026, come and join us. I'm sure we're a powerful network by now and you can get involved in all of the proper training for all of this stuff. Guys, thank you. I hope your Airbnb journey is a success and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.